Mr. Kip Sorensen, good to see you again, brother.
Good to be here, man. We got some solid questions from our brothers in the Iron Council. So excited to kind of go over some of these with the audience.
Yeah, I don't normally review them because I like to shoot off the cuff a little bit because, well, I'm busy, number one. But then also I like that just like knee-jerk reaction almost, if you will. But I actually did review these ones, and it looks like we have questions. So I'm excited to go through those things.
Yeah, I mostly just review them briefly just to determine if we should yank them out and not cover them, because you guys have submitted questions that are not worthy of the podcast from time to time. And so we've had to scrub a little bit. So, and if you remember,
well, from the IC, we're pretty safe.
That's true. And if you do remember, there was, we stripped it out post recording, but at one point it was super funny. I read off the question at the end. It says, please leave my name out or mention this as anonymous. I was like,
that's right.
And then we had to tell Cody to trim it out after.
To trim his name out, right? But not the question. I think we left the question. Yeah. Yeah, we try to keep it pretty raw around here because, that's life. So, when I started the podcast, I used to over edit it where I'd take out all the ums and the ahs and the awkward pauses and things like that. And I don't do that anymore. I leave all that stuff in there. It's just more real and relevant. And I think people that listen, the guys that are tuning in, appreciate it because it's a more natural conversation than having this thing all scripted out just perfectly and communicating. That's actually one of the problems with social media is just this over filtered perfect, or it's not perfect, but just the representation of perfection online. And the biggest problem with that is there's a huge disconnect between that which is portrayed and then the people who are observing it, their reality. And so they end up tuning out and because there's this disconnect. It's just not real. It's like, I don't see myself in that. And so they disconnect, or even worse, they feel like what the hell's wrong with them, because they're comparing to this perception of perfection that just doesn't exist.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, if you guys have low self-esteem, hop on YouTube, look at us, and you'll feel a hell of a lot better about yourselves, the way you look.
Speak for yourself, man. Speak for yourself. Don't throw me into there with that.
You're like, I hate public speaking, but when I listen to Ryan and Kip, I feel like I am really superior.
I'm really good at this. Exactly. We'll
okay.
Cummings as well. All right, man. Should we get into it, guys? We're answering questions again. I think these ones come from the Iron Council. We might have a little bit of pour over depending on time from the Facebook group, but we give precedent to the members of the Iron Council. And if you are interested in that, or at least learning what that's all about, then head to orderofman.com/Iron Council. That's our exclusive brotherhood. This month we're talking all about habits. We've got a great conversation next week for the podcast, so it'll be available to you listening, with the author of Atomic Habits, James Clear, and we're doing a deep dive inside of the Iron Council regarding processes and systems and habits and all that fun stuff in anticipation for the good work we're going to be doing as we roll into 2020, which is weird to say, but here it is nonetheless.
Yeah, and that book. I don't know. I'm not sure what expectation I had, but that book is pretty awesome.
It's solid. Yeah, it's solid.
It's making it on towards the top of my book list. I'm really enjoying that book.
Yeah, I think I anticipated it to be more of like a cliche kind of, the same old regurgitated nonsense about habits and hacks and all that stuff. And I read it last year when it came out, and James and I weren't able to schedule a podcast for, I don't know, scheduling reasons or something. We weren't able to schedule it. And then I actually listened to it this time again, as opposed to reading it, and then had a powerful conversation with James. So if you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you are, because that one comes out next week on Tuesday.
And the episode that came out yesterday was awesome.
Yeah, with Traver. Yeah, that was really good. Him and I had a pretty good connection right off the bat. And he's got some interesting things to share and takes on masculinity and living a quote unquote uncivilized life. So check it out.
Yeah, I liked it. All right, man. Our first questions. Yeah, it's from Moose within the IC. As you both know, John Eldredge said that all men need a battle to fight, to adventure, to live, and a beauty to rescue. Jeez, I slaughtered that.
Holy cow, Kip! Stop. This is one of my favorite quotes. So let me say it.
You
Deep
just
in
say
his
it.
heart, every man longs for a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. John Eldridge. There you go.
At this point in your journeys, what is fulfilling these needs for each of you?
Okay, so for me, battle to fight, you're part of it right now. This is my battle to reclaim and restore masculinity. I am fully engaged in this thing. I'm committed to what we're doing here. I've planted my flag. It is everything. Well, not everything. It is very, very important to me, and I've poured my heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears into making this work, and it is working, and it's growing, and it's expanding because you guys are tuning in. That's my battle. The adventure, let's see, battle to fight, adventure to live. Adventure right now for me, well, I took this major adventure coming out here to Maine. So just being part of this, the risk that we acquired and assumed when we embarked upon this journey was definitely scary and is starting to pay off and has paid off from the beginning. In addition to that, my jiu-jitsu journey, because to me that's adventurous. That's living wild, having some physical challenge and adversity and getting tougher. So I'd say those two things. Beauty to rescue. I mean, it'd be easy to say my wife, and certainly. Let me preface it by saying this: we're not talking about the damsel in distress here. Okay, some people interpret this as men going out and rescuing the women in the damsel in distress. My wife is fully capable. A lot of the things that she can do on her own. She's independent as it is, which I actually like about her. That's one of the things I really enjoy and love about her. But at the same time, I feel like she's a beauty worth pursuing, maybe not rescuing, if you will, a beauty worth pursuing. But I also add my family into that. So it's not just my wife, but it's my children, it's my sons and daughter, making sure that I'm teaching them and engaging them and being active in their lives and being a major part of their learning and growth experience. And that also is a lot of fulfillment and reward for me too. So that's my answer to that question. It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a really great question. Yeah, for me, I'd say it's the same thing. The battle is actually what we're doing within Iron Council and me contributing on the podcast. Like, this is very much, I know it's your founded battle, but it's a battle that I've completely enlisted in and willing to make it my fight as well. So that would be my battle. I think adventure for me right now, it's work. Looking at the opportunities that I have in the position I have in the company and saying, hey, how do we create the best company ever, the best culture ever, the best team? And you know what I mean? And kind of going after those aspects, those uncharted waters, at least for me, from that perspective. Some of my hobbies obviously play that part. It's amazing how a jiu-jitsu comes off as an adventure, because when someone's trying to choke you or quasi quote unquote kill you, it feels very adventurous.
Well, yeah, there's something to be said for an adventure in my mind. And sorry to interrupt, but I got to say this. An adventure in my mind has to have an element, because if it doesn't have risk, it's just not worth it. So I remember this. We got airsoft guns. This was years ago for our events that we run, right? Yeah. And my son and I were like, let's go try them. So we put our masks on and we go out there, and I'm like, all right, go stand out there and I'll shoot you. And he's like, I'm not doing that. You go stand out there and I'll shoot you. And so we're like, well, let's just shoot each other. And so we start shooting each other, and both of us come back and we're like, man, that hurts. And that's the point. Yeah. Because if it didn't hurt, it wouldn't have been fun. Like, there has to be an element of risk. If there's no element of risk, you might as well just go to like Disneyland and enjoy the rides. And we all know how miserable Disneyland is. Life is about acquiring, or I should say mitigating risk, but managing it as well. And then taking on as much as you can towards a meaningful purpose, a meaningful objective. Yeah. And that's what that adventure is, right? It's something that poses an element of risk, but it's adventurous enough. It feeds the heart and soul, if you will. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
No, you're fine. No, and beauty, actually, when I read this, the first thing that came to my mind is being the example and the man that I hope my daughters choose to not model, but choose to look for in a male counterpart when they get older.
Why
right?
did you say not model? I mean, isn't that
Well,
modeling?
not them model, but them
Oh,
look
I
for
see what
that
you're saying.
in
Sure.
a male counterpart when they get older. And so that really like is present for me is who do I want my two daughters? What kind of boys do I want them attracted to? What kind of, and that's a lot of that's going to be based upon how I interact with them and how I teach them and how I show up as an example. So that's kind of the first thing that came to mind for me.
Right on. Good question, Moose. What next?
All right, Michael Ferguson, what does a normal day, week for you look like? How do you work in all you do into a single day, work, family, service, hobbies, studies, and etc.?
Well, let me say this. We have all of these requirements and obligations and commitments. I'm not saying that you should do every single one of those every single day.
Yeah.
So, for example, I do jujitsu 2 to 3 days a week. I don't do it 7 days a week. I do it 2 to 3 days a week. So the other 4 days, I might be training or exercising or lifting weights, or maybe I don't do anything, So it's not like you have to do every single thing every single day, because what'll happen is you'll burn yourself out. Same thing with charitable causes or some sort of service work. It's like you're probably not going to do that every day, but are you going to go work at the the food shelter on Saturday morning? Yeah, okay, cool. So an hour to 2 hours a week, right? As far as me, what my typical day is, I get up at 5:30. I wake up, I drink water, I stretch, I work out at 6. I go from 6 to 7. Come home. One of the things that we've done in the past is, and I'm going through this quick because we've talked about it so much, so go back and listen to some of these others that we've done. But I do a family meeting with my family. We do scriptures and prayer, plan out our day, what's going on, and then usually I'm into the office, which is upstairs, about 8:30 or so, and I'm doing my planning for the day, every day planning, which if you're watching the video on YouTube, I'm holding up my battle planner right now. I mean, I use this every day. So I plan it out, and then based on the plan, I work it. I just work it. And then I get done about 5:30 every day. I train on Mondays and Wednesdays, train jujitsu that is, on Mondays and Wednesdays. But outside of that, eat dinner as a family, play with the kids, do the thing. It doesn't seem that overwhelming to me, but that might just be because I have a system in place. So having the system in place, establishing some healthy boundaries, not letting you or anybody else cross over those boundaries, communicating expectations with those who will be impacted by your schedule, all seem to play a pretty big part in maintaining a schedule that works for you and them too. Like, it has to work for them. I'm so sick of hearing all these guys talk about, I got to take care of me and 0 Fs and I don't care what anybody else. Guys, we are meant to serve. So your schedule should suit you, but it should also lend itself to the people that you're working to serve, i.e. your wife, your kids, your clients, your friends, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And part of making that work is setting an expectation, right? So they understand. Right. Yeah.
Well, and then you again, you got to remember, if you're going to set an expectation, that's like half the battle. It's not even half the battle. That's maybe like 10% of the battle, because that's the easy part. You have to uphold the expectation. So if you put an expectation in place and you say, okay, hon, I'm going to be done at 5 o'clock every day, and then you're done at 6 o'clock, well, you're being a liar. You're out of integrity. So of course she's going to question that and be upset by that. But if you tell her, hey, hon, I'm going to be done at 6 o'clock every day, and that's the expectation, so you're going to work an hour later, but you actually uphold it, well, she's going to see that you're honoring that. This is something I ran into a friend years back. I was kind of giving him some coaching with regards to his business, and he would overpromise to his customers, and then he would underdeliver. He'd fall short. And I don't know what was going on, but he thought that for whatever reason, if he could just impress his customers, that they'd be happy. It's like they're not impressed by your words. They're impressed by what you deliver. So what I would suggest is you flip it on its head. So instead of overpromising, underpromise. Hey guys, you know what? Like, I'm really busy. This is going to take me a week. And then you come back and you deliver it in 2 days. Now you over-delivered. So not only did you meet the expectation, you exceeded the expectation. So your words have to match your actions. And if they don't, they should err in favor of you over-delivering, not under-delivering.
Yeah, totally. And I think the key to what you're saying, Ryan, is that requires intentionality. It's so funny how often we may commit to something and say, and then our general thought process is, well, I'll just do my best, or, I'll try to get it done early or whatever. But we don't actually pause and say intentionally, okay, for us to get that project done early, what do we need to do? For us to come under budget, what do we specifically need to do? We just think that when the moment comes, we'll do extra hard work and, we'll pull it through. It's like, no, you need to define that. You need to be very intentional in regards to how you're going to manage those expectations or over deliver on those expectations.
Speaking of James Clear, how we were talking about with habits and processes and systems, one of his quotes is, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our processes and systems. It's the same concept as, I think it was Archilochus who said, we don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training. Yeah. So you're not going to miraculously show up and think that you're going to perform at your peak performance if you haven't trained for that, if you haven't put systems in place for that. You're going to fall to the lowest possible level of training, of preparation, of systems and processes. So you should be finding ways to continue to elevate. Okay, what is your system? What is your process? Even with orders in the Order of Man store, for example, we document everything. We document when we're going to look at supplies and how much we need to order and what are our minimum requirements for shirts and hats and flags and all the other stuff we have, and when do we need to reorder those supplies and what is the process for reordering those. I say we, it's my son and I. Well, we do that because we know that when we get in a pinch, if we don't have those processes and systems in place, something falls through the cracks. So we had this system in place for ordering labels, shipping labels for our orders. And for whatever reason, my son overlooked this system that we had in place for it. And we were doing orders, I don't know, a week and a half or so ago. And he's like, Dad, we're out of printing labels. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we're completely out. I said, well, did you tell me that we needed to order them? Like, I don't remember you telling me that. He says, oh, no, I forgot. Okay, well, we deviated from the system. And because we deviated from the system, we had to go in and order. But not only did we had to order them, we had to rush order them or rush ship them. And it ended up costing us, I think it was like $130 to get them to us within 2 days. And I showed him, I'm like, here's the price. Had we not had to do this, here's the price with us having to do it. And he felt so bad about it. And I said, good, you should feel bad about it. So bad about it that you correct the behavior and then you follow the systems and processes. This is why we have these things in place. So when we get caught up in the moment, or we get emotional, or we get freaked out or stressed out, or there's deadlines to meet, you're always going to fall back to the lowest common denominator, and that is the system or process that you put in place. So continue to elevate those things.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like we have to say this because of the subject of the month, and I think it's a good point, because you mentioned earlier, Ryan, about, you're talking about your day, and you're saying, well, it doesn't seem overly complex or whatever. That's probably by design. And we see this time and time again where guys get fired up, they get motivated, they join the Iron Council, and they're just like, I'm changing everything, right? Like every day is just, I'm going to conquer, I'm going to do this and this and this. And it's all from a great place. It's all with great intentions. The problem is a lot of what we're trying to form in these processes are habits. So you don't have to burn brain cycles. You don't have to be motivated to accomplish all these things. And a lot of accomplishment is a result of consistency, incremental, on top of each other, accomplishing things. And I would like to paint this picture of, let's say you're all about not destroying, like getting after your day and having an amazing day, crushing your day. And what happens, and we see this a lot with people, is they try to fit too much in, right? It's like, oh, I got 15 minutes. I'm going to hurry up and accomplish this. And what happens? They end up showing late to the next meeting. They end up doing this. Now, at the end of the day, they may feel like, hey, I got a lot done today. But what was the impact? Well, I showed up late, so I'm out of integrity in this scenario. I dropped the ball. Like, it doesn't matter that you may have gotten 10 things done. If 5 of them were late and you created a relationship or an expectation with someone that you're unreliable, was the 10 things worth it?
Right.
We got to be really mindful that, like, just crushing and getting things done isn't necessarily always just impact. And that impact might be you giving yourself the margins to make sure that you can adjust appropriately, be present because that's the other thing. When I think about crushing a day, guess what it doesn't look like? Me being open and present with my kids. Mm-hmm. That is the opposite of crushing my day typically. right?
Yeah.
When my daughter wants to tell me this story and she's taking forever to explain it, I'm thinking, I don't have time for this. Like,
Finish your
hurry.
story.
Yeah. And what am I doing to that relationship? Right. And
Yeah.
so we got to be really mindful how we show up and the value of incremental adjustments to a schedule and not trying to overkill it.
Well, and what's funny is most of us, if we watched, for example, I don't know, a mouse or a rat spinning on the little rat wheel in his cage, like nobody would say, oh, that rat got a lot accomplished today.
Yeah, totally.
Although he ran 1,000 circles on that wheel. That's us.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're making all these calls, you're checking social media, you're spending too much time on the toilet, you're dinking around doing this. It's like, man, I was just really busy today. Busy doesn't mean a thing. It's actually one of my pet peeves when I go to somebody or bump into someone and I say, hey, how's things going? They're like, oh, I'm busy, man. It's awesome.
And everyone says that.
Wait,
everyone.
Like, what's awesome? That you're busy or that you're producing results? Like, I don't know what you mean. And most people think that being busy is what's awesome. No, that's not awesome. Being productive, connecting with your kids, engaging with your wife, helping a client, that is, or getting in shape, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Not being busy. Now, sometimes they're correlated. Sometimes you're busy helping clients. Great. But busy for the sake of busy is not awesome. It's the opposite awesome.
And too busy only lasts for a while until you get burned out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then you crash and burn. All right, what's next?
Okay, Cody Gold. I need to curb the spending. I feel like a poker player on tilt, just bleeding money. Do you have any advice for creating a functional budget and stay within it?
I have some good advice on this. So Dave Ramsey has the cash system. Like a lot of the guys that are listening have probably heard that.
So
he
moved
the
envelopes.
Envelope system. Sorry, I said cash system, but same thing. Yeah, it's envelope. So he'll have envelopes for whatever your expenses are. You just put that much cash in it, and then you don't spend anything else. Just the cash is the cash. I don't know that you need to be that proactive, but there's typically, as a financial advisor, what I saw over the course of 8 or 9 years is there's typically two places that people spend the most money on that they don't realize that there's gaps or that they're overspending. It's entertainment and it's dining out specifically. Maybe groceries too. Because when you're in a grocery store, you see all these extra things. You're like, oh, I can get this, I can get that. Right. There's all these distractions and these temptations in front of you. So you just throw more stuff in your cart. So what I would do is I would start to budget, do a weekly budget and not monthly, weekly. Like monthly is not long enough because there's a lot of expenses that happen throughout the week. So you do a weekly budget and you manage it for 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. And then you start looking at where you're overspending. And you're going to see very quickly, it's entertainment, it's dining, and potentially groceries, because that's what it always is. Those are the things that you should move to cash only. So and any temptation that you have, maybe it's going to the convenience store and spending $10 on snacks and drinks every time. Bring your card with you. Make it harder. Go a different route. This comes into James's habits and systems and processes. He talks about the 4 laws of habits, and I'm going to butcher them here, but make it obvious, make it easy, make it attractive, and there's one other that's skipping my mind right now. Convenient. Did I say convenient?
No, I don't think you did.
Yeah, so convenience, I think, is the other one. Or that's easy. I don't know. Anyways, you guys get it.
That's right.
Make it easy, obvious, attractive, and then there's a 4th one. You guys can look it up or listen to the podcast. So in order to get rid of a bad habit, you need to do the inverse of those. So to make it easy, you need to make it difficult. Well, how do you make it difficult? You make it hard to accomplish. So if the habit is spending extra money when you go to the convenience store, just don't bring your card with you. Then it's like hard and you're just not going to do it. Right. Yeah. So you look at the inverses of the 4 laws of habits and then you apply that to eliminating bad habits. But I would say moving to a cash only system is very, very valuable for those over expenses. I also think that just doing a weekly budget as opposed to a monthly is going to curb a lot of that as well, because you're looking at it. It's visible. It's obvious. It's in front of your face.
Yeah.
Right. And the more that you have something on the top of your mind, the better you're going to be at it. Yeah. So it's been said that what gets measured gets improved. So measure it. measure it more frequently. And the more you measure it, the more likely it is that you're going to work towards that thing.
Cool. All right, Bobby Alphabet. When do you call it quits on being the nice guy towards the other parent that you're co-parenting with? The mother of my child behavior, the mother of my child's behavior towards me has continued to be rude, condescending, and disrespectful. I continue to return her actions with kind, loving, tolerant behavior on my part to be the example to my son on how to treat women and his mother. Any tactics on dealing with her behavior or establishing boundaries so it does not negatively affect me as much as it does sometimes.
Well, you have an expectation, and the expectation is that she should treat you a certain way. Now, maybe that's true, but so what? It's not reality. So I would say that the first thing you need to do is get rid of your expectation that she's going to be quote unquote nice to you just because you're nice to her. Why not just be nice because that's the right thing to do? Now, there's a difference between what we have dubbed the nice guy and then just being an assertive man. And you can be respectful and courteous and polite and also assertive. The nice guy, when I hear that, what I think of is the guy that's overly nice at his own expense. He's getting railroaded. Maybe he's getting henpecked. He's not getting his way. He's losing some of the power that ultimately he should have and strive to maintain. That's what I hear when I hear the nice guy. But I think it's perfectly acceptable and probably encouraged to be respectful, courteous, kind, assertive towards your rights as a father without having the expectation that she needs to do those things in return. And right now, because you have an expectation that she should behave a certain way simply because you are, that's creating a lot of frustration and animosity. Look, I agree. Like, she should be the same thing, but you're not going to control her. And your expectation that she does it is what's causing the problem here.
Totally. John Gary Bishop, he illustrates in his book too that when you have expectation and you hold on to the meaning that you're putting around it, like she's wrong or it shouldn't be this way or whatever, then you stop dealing in reality. Right. And you just run around just pissed off because your expectations aren't being met. Well, guess what? She's not going to be nice. In fact, you're probably better off just assuming that she's not going to. So now what are you going to do about it? Right.
And you should probably maintain the course.
Yeah, totally. And I think Bobby's right on top of it here of like, hey, I need to be an example to my son and out of how to treat women and his mother and how to deal with difficult situations when people might be condescending and somewhat rude to you. It's perfect. What a great opportunity you have to teach him on how to deal with this stuff. So I love it. The tactic I would throw at you, Bobby, is empathy. It's really, really powerful when you can actually sit back and have some empathy. And I know it sounds crazy because, right, we're talking about how she's wrong and she shouldn't be doing these things. What's even more powerful is understand why she's rude. To actually understand that there's other stories going on, that she's coming to the table with a whole spew of maybe past history with you and she's having a hard time dealing with it or the way she was raised or whatever. And by having some empathy, we have a tendency to be able to be a little bit more understanding and get that probably her behavior towards you has a little bit to maybe do with you and a whole lot to do with a whole bunch of other stuff. And now you can actually come to the table and not be bothered. Here's the reality too, if you don't mind me suggesting this. Why I didn't hear Bobby say it was okay. So I'm just joking. I don't know why I asked if it was okay with Bobby.
Are you asking me or him? I don't know.
I was asking Bobby, but you know,
I think he'll be okay with it.
Okay. The other idea here, Bobby, too, is the only reason why her behavior is bothering you is because you're taking it personal and you're making that choice.
Yep.
So, and that's what empathy does, is we allow to say, okay, guess what? She's being upset because of this. She may have a hard day. She has this past, whatever. And actually coming to the realization that has less to do with you than it really does allows you to eliminate some of that meaning that you're putting on it that makes it bothersome. It's amazing.
Well, you don't know. You don't know.
It's true.
That's the problem is we spend so much time assuming that we believe what the other person is thinking. Like Bobby might be thinking, oh, she's acting like this because she hates me. Well, she shouldn't hate me because of this or Well, maybe she's just miserable.
Yeah.
Or maybe she does hate you. We don't know.
Yeah.
We have no idea. So because we don't know, then we get to make up our own story. And right now, you're making up a story that isn't serving you or your child, frankly. What if instead you made up the story that says, you know what? Yeah, I don't know, so I'm just going to assume that she's just a miserable person, that it isn't personal, that she's just a miserable person, that she doesn't enjoy life or her situation, or maybe she has some regrets or animosity towards whatever. And that's unfortunate. I'm going to do my best to be the kind of man that I want to be and help my child. And that's the story that you craft, because they're both stories, both founded on assumptions.
Choose one. Yeah.
Well, they're founded on assumptions that you don't know.
Yeah.
And you're never going to know, probably, even if he tells you, because people lie.
Yeah. Well, not only lie, but they don't even understand their own problems. Half the time it's like, well, I'm pissed off because of blah, blah, blah. It's like, actually, that's not true. They don't even know.
Nobody knows. So just make up a story that serves you.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that. Just make up a story. Because right now you're making up a story. Make up a better story.
Yeah. And it takes time.
I'm not saying you this
tough.
Because when it feels like somebody's attacking you and it feels personal, then yes, that's difficult to overcome. I'm not saying just flip a switch, but start telling yourself a different story and you'll experience different results.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
What's next?
All right, Michael Ferguson. What is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love? And number 2, in the past 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
So because I read through some of these questions, I thought about it. Because normally I'd be like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really enjoy doing, a lot of people wouldn't know this or guess this, is I really like doing puzzles. So at night, my wife and I will just sit down and put on some music, and we've got this little 4-foot square table in the library, and we just do puzzles for a couple hours. Sometimes we'll watch a movie, sometimes we'll just listen to music, sometimes we won't at all, we'll just talk, and we just do puzzles. So that's kind of, people wouldn't know. The other, maybe not absurd, but again, you wouldn't guess.
Yeah.
Is
unusual.
Those little, unusual, is those little Christmas villages, like the little, plaster ones, I think they are, or something, the white ones. I really like, again, this is mostly during the holidays, is we'll sit and we'll paint those and create and like add to our village. So that's another thing that I enjoy doing.
That's
there
funny.
It is. It's fun, man. It's just a great way to connect with her and zone out and veg out and not have to think real hard and just enjoy being present with my wife. I enjoy that.
Yeah. All right. And then in the last 5 years, new belief, habit, or behavior.
Oh, yeah. This one was hard because there's just so many. Like there's just so many.
5 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I was thinking
and I don't even know sometimes what I've adopted. I would say jujitsu is a behavior or an activity that has really changed me for the better. And so I started jujitsu. It was around July or August of last year before immersion camp. And then when I got back from immersion camp, I just stopped. I didn't do anything. So I did it for like a couple of months and then I didn't do anything. And then I picked back up again when I moved out here. So that would have been July. And I've been pretty consistent over the past 6 months, like very consistent. And that's definitely, in fact, I'm going to do a Friday Field Notes on some of the things that I've learned in my first, 6 months or year of jiu-jitsu. So I'll talk about that in the future.
Love it. Man, my rib's finally good. I'm actually going to go train this afternoon for the first time for, I think it's been 6 weeks maybe. So I'm like,
what?
Yeah, losing my mind.
You are, man. You've lost your mind if you're not.
I'm going to show up
for 6 months.
I'm going to show up and they're going to hand me another belt. They're like, this is now your new belt.
Yeah, I was going to say like because you're a brown belt now, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to give you a purple belt. Here's your belt. Here's your new belt.
Pastel purple one.
That's right.
Have you seen that Master Ken video where the guy's like, "Oh, I can't spar." He's like, "Oh, why not?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm hurt." And he's like, "Oh, that's not a big deal. It's not a big deal." And he like goes in the back room and then comes back out with a pink belt. And he's like, "Put this on." And then he puts him into the corner where he can watch.
That's funny. Did you see that post that I made on Instagram the other I think it was yesterday or a couple of days ago about what my son said to me?
Yeah, about the deadlifts.
Deadlifts.
Right?
So he's like,
Yeah.
so he's like, Dad, when are we gonna deadlift? Which is a great question in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know, man, like my back's been hurting me lately. He's like, oh, my back's been hurting me lately. And I was like, well said. And we went and deadlifted.
Yeah. I love it.
A little mockery and prodding goes a long way between men, even between father and son.
Yeah, it does. And how easy would it have been for most dads to say, "Hey, well, I'm old, and when you're my age," versus like, you know what, you're right. Let's go live.
Right. Yeah. I'm not injured. My back is just sore. So it's not like something I shouldn't do. It's something that I was using as an excuse not to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Lighten the load or do something else. Right. So
yeah, totally.
Anyway, sorry,
keep going.
Go for it. What's your hobby or activity?
I don't know if I have an unusual habit or absurd thing that I love. How's this? We had like a little Nerf war in the office here at the company I work for, and it's getting out of hand. So guys are like printing 3D parts for their guns so they can hold 200 rounds instead. Guys,
are you serious?
Yeah, guys have started
That's
researching how to make them more painful. Like we try to freeze them in the freezer.
Yeah, man.
Injecting
Nerf bullets.
Yeah, the circle ones. Yeah, so it's the game is being escalated and it's kind of fun. So I don't know, maybe that's
no, that's good. That's cool. When I was in right out of high school, I moved to about an hour south in southern Utah, and we had our own place, me and a couple of buddies, and we would do airsoft wars in our house, and we would like tip over the couches, and like it got real, man. It was crazy. Yeah. And we had this big stand-up arcade machine, and I remember one time my buddy was hiding behind it, and I was sneaking in from the kitchen, and I low crawled to the arcade machine on the front of it, and he was kind of off to the side, and he didn't know I was there. And he put his hand around the arcade machine to like prop himself up. And when he put his hand at there, I just stuck my gun, it's a little airsoft pistol, right at his knuckle, and point blank just blasted his knuckle. Oh man.
Break the skin.
He cried about that for months. So awesome.
Yeah. We even had some friendly fire. One of the guys on my team shot me in the face from like, because we're both like over a corner, catches me in the face. I'm like, man, good thing that we're not playing with real guns here. This would not be well. So, but new behavior, how's this? I'll give a recent one. So I used to just work out in the mornings when it made sense. I wasn't like consistent on time. And, because of my son's schedule, for us to be able to work out in the mornings, we have to be really specific on when we work out. And that consistency, that exact consistency of we work out every day at this time has been really beneficial. So much that now I'm waking up better. Because before I'd just kind of like, oh, I have kids or I'm due this at the office, so I'm going to wake up later. Like I was not consistent on my wake up time and my workout. And that has proven to be really beneficial.
Yeah, man. I like that. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for doing something consistently and not making excuses and not doing it when it's only convenient to do. It's powerful when you're make those commitments. I mean, that's what it is. It's just a commitment. It's a level of commitment, and it shapes a lot of the way we engage with the rest of life.
Yeah. All right, cool. Roger Taylor. The Spartan Race seems like a natural sponsor for the Order of Man. Have you talked with them about this opportunity?
No, I haven't talked with them.
You know, it'd be cool. I've thought about this. We have a Spartan. I don't know if you could commit and get the good enough numbers. You guys rally behind this to see if we can make this happen. But how cool would it be to have a Spartan race that is strictly Order of Man / Iron Council? That'd be pretty awesome.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Why does it have to be a Spartan race? We can just do our own.
That's true. All right.
So yeah, no,
Do you get what I'm
I like
saying?
that
Like
idea.
a
No,
huge
totally,
amount of number of
totally.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, they could have
Like-minded.
thousands, like 40,000 of us.
Yeah. Yes.
I haven't reached out. So my only sponsors currently are Origin, of course, and Sorex. You guys have heard me talk about both of them. Hoyt Bose has sponsored some of our events in the past. I did a little bit with 511 years ago. I don't want to hawk stuff. That's the biggest thing. Like I'm just not interested in like picking up sponsors for the sake of sponsors. Like I want people that I'm connected with. I want companies that I believe in. I want products that I use. Origin, those guys are like family to me. Like Brian and Pete, like those are great friends of mine. It's not just a sponsorship. Those guys are friends. Bert, him and I are hunting buddies. You know, we hang out, we hunt together. That's not just a sponsorship. He's a friend. So I'm more interested in those connections, and if I can support a company that I believe in, that I use their products and services, then that's who I'm going to share with you guys. And Spartan's great. You know, I've got one of their trifectas. I did the Spartan Agogi. So I mean, it could be something solid, but I just don't. It's just not part of the model. Is like look for a bunch of sponsors.
Yeah, copy. Michael Dotson, how do you get the wind back in your sails when your marriage is ending? I currently have good days and bad days. I have myself and my 2 boys to take care of, just trying to finish a way to put my needs back in the front of my life and be the best father I can be at the same time as we transition through this chapter of our lives.
You know, it's hard when you've identified as being something for so long, like a husband, for example, and now that part of your identity, to the degree that you've made it part of your identity, is now stripped away from you for whatever reason. We don't have to get into that, but that's no longer part of your identity. And so you lose yourself. You lose a part of yourself. Like you've literally and figuratively lost a part of yourself in your life because of the divorce that you're going through right now. So it's natural to feel loss. It's natural to feel down about it and be upset and have a little bit of a loss of your way. But here's the cool thing. You get to remake yourself.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, it's time for you to make yourself the project. Isn't that a cool thing? I believe that most men, the overwhelming majority of men out there, they want to build, they want to create. That's what we do. We create. We take raw materials and we create. We take rocks and we build walls. We take trees and we chop them down and we shape them into timber and lumber to build houses and buildings and structures. We mine minerals from the ground and we melt them down and then we mold them and shape them into parts that go into vehicles or weapons to defend ourselves and other people. Like, this is what we do. We build and we create out of raw materials. You are the raw material now. You need to make yourself the project. You need to take this raw lump of cells that is you and refine it, define it, hone it, craft it, tweak it, massage it, do whatever you can, machine it to create an entirely new version of yourself, or to replace the version of you that has been lost, which is husband. Okay, I'm not a husband. I'm a divorced father of 2 or 3 or whatever the situation is. Okay, cool. Now, how do you make the best version of yourself? How do you lose weight? How do you get strong? How do you reframe the experiences that you've had? What new information do you need to expose yourself to? What new relationships do you need to build your business, to be a more engaged father than you ever have been in the past? How do you grow your bank account? What experiences do you need in life? You start documenting all of this stuff and writing this down. How could you not be excited about that?
Yeah, I'm excited.
You should be. We should all be excited about that. Every day that you wake up, you have an opportunity to create, to fulfill your objective and your purpose on this planet, which is to take, again, raw material. This guy's talking about wind in his sails. Dude, we take cotton off of plants in the field or wool off the back of an animal. and we clean it and we weave it and we cut it and we put it into fabric to make sails or to make clothes so we don't die. This is what men do. Do that with yourself.
Yeah.
Think about how cool that is. I feel so bad for guys who wake up, and the reason I feel bad is because I know what it feels like, who wake up and they're miserable and they're contentious and they have regret and remorse and sorrow and misery in their life because they aren't focused on their powerful abilities as men to create life, to create opportunities, to create tools, to create whatever it is that they want to create in their life. And you have an opportunity to do that. That's a 30,000-foot view. Tactically, do the battle plan. You're in the Iron Council, man. So pick 4 things. Focus on your vision, step number 1. What kind of man do I want to be? How do I want to show up as a father? How do I want to show up as a businessman or an entrepreneur? What kind of shape do I want to be in? When I look in the mirror and I'm naked, like, what do I want to see at the man looking back at me? Right? Cast your vision. Next, 4 objectives. Not 10, not 8, not 30, 4. 4 simple objectives, 90 days that you're going to do to create somebody new. Now, tactics. All right, I need to lose 20 pounds. I'm excited about this. What am I going to do? Oh, I'll exercise. Not good enough. What type of exercise? What type of diet? When? Where? How? What's the programming you're going to use? How are you going to stay on track? Who's going to hold you accountable? How are you going to systematize and put this into a process? How could you not be excited about that? Just decide what it's going to be, work the battle plan, create like you're meant to, and I think you start to put yourself on the right path.
Yeah. The only thing I'd add is you have an option, and we all have this option to allow a difficult situation to break us or make us better. And so my suggestion to Michael is, do you want to regret this marriage and this divorce? Or do you want to become the type of man that grows so much from this that you say, holy cow, that difficult time in my life was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me because of the man I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
you do
really
it
hard.
Through the tactics.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, Kip. I wholeheartedly agree. It's really hard to do because you feel you're in this moment of misery right now. So you don't feel like you can overcome where you're at. Here's what I would suggest. Look at other miserable times in your life when you thought the world was going to end and everything was catastrophic and you were, up a creek and it was just a bad situation. And then ask yourself, did I overcome that? Of course you did, because you're still here. Have faith that you can do that again, and you will. Yeah. Use this as a leap board to create yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And take advantage of this opportunity to grow from the failed marriage too while you're at it. Right.
Right. It is a good opportunity. It's not a fortunate situation. It's just an opportunity to make something more of yourself.
Yeah. Experience. And then Michael, ping me in the Iron Council. I have a quote for you.
Okay.
All right. Phil Durner.
Oh, wait. I'm confused. Say that again. I misunderstood what you said.
I was telling Michael to ping me in the Foundry in the
Sorry,
IC, and I have a quote for him. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quote for him.
So hit Kip up. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. I was just talking about this very subject on Sunday, about growing and having happiness in moments of darkness. And so this is kind of really present on my mind, and I have something for Michael. Or Michael, I'll look you up and I'll send it to you.
Okay, cool.
All right. Phil Durner, what have your Q4 objectives and tactics been? How has it been going as we near the end of the quarter?
Yeah. So again, I knew what questions were. I pulled mine up here real quick. Did he ask for objectives or tactics?
Objectives and tactics. I think the main thing is just kind of how things are looking towards the end of the quarter.
Yeah, it's good. I'm like, I would say 75% on track to hit these right now. The one I'm falling short on is my calibration objective, which is to complete the rough draft of my new book. Now, if guys know what calibration is, they might ask, well, why is doing the rough draft of your book a calibration objective? So calibration is getting right with yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The reason that I have completing the rough draft of my book in calibration is because writing helps bring clarity to my thought process and helps me flesh out some of the ideas that are continually bouncing around in my brain. So I'm struggling on that one, frankly. The connection objective is transitioning the store fully over to my son, which we're like 90% there. So we're on track there. Condition objective is my body fat percentage, which I've struggled with in the past, but I'm trending very, very well right now. And then my contribution objective is we had some outstanding debt as we moved here and incurred some debt that way, is to pay off every single ounce of that debt, or penny of that debt, if you will. And we should have that paid off here in the next week. So doing well. We just got to get on track with that calibration objective.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. All right. Matthew Watts, how do you balance enjoying the holidays with your fitness and health goals? I have the perfect response to this.
I don't like that question because why are they're not at odds with each other. Like balance to me. So my wife picked up a book. It was a Smithsonian book the other day for the kids. And in it, they had some Egyptian history in there. I'm going to tie this all together, I promise. So the way that, and I'll butcher this, somebody who knows more about this will be sure to correct me. I have no doubt. But when the Egyptians died, among other things, their process into the afterlife was that their heart, literally their heart, was put on a scale and weighed against a feather. And if the heart was lighter than a feather, they were admitted entry because they had a clean and pure heart. If the heart was heavier than the feather, they were not admitted entry, and it was some brutal eternal damnation or something, because they had a heavy heart, which means that they weren't a good human being, right? So they weighed it, right? And so when you're talking about balance, you think about the scale, right? So it's like up and down. And so like if you're watching this video, you can see, and you're trying to get this like harmonious balance. Well, what that means is there's something on this side, health, fitness, and then there's something on this side, holidays and enjoying the family time and holidays and food and all that stuff. And so what you're saying in the question is that they're at odds with each other. Like I can't enjoy the holidays and be fit. Well, that's a faulty premise.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. The reason you're having a hard time with rectifying this question of yours is the question itself. You believe they're at odds with each other. They're not at odds with each other. In fact, they're harmonious. Like when you're healthy, you're going to enjoy the holidays more. When you're fit, you're going to have more energy to go play in the snow and go cut down a Christmas tree and go play with your kids and enjoy interesting discussion with your family. And on the topic of discussion, when you're reading and you're on this personal self-development journey, you're going to be more interesting and have more to talk about and be able to share different experiences and stories. They're not at odds with each other. They should correspond. And if you feel like they're at odds with each other, then you're worried about striking the balance. But if you start looking at it and saying, no, they're harmonious. Look, is there something wrong with having a piece of pie? No, have a piece of pie. Just don't have the whole damn pie. But you can have a piece of pie and then do all your other things. But why would the holidays keep you from getting up early and going to the gym, or keep you from training? The holidays are literally 2 days, Christmas and New Year's. So what are you going to do during the other 29 days of the month?
Yeah. All they are is really good excuses that we've used in the past.
They're not even good excuses.
Well, yeah, but we use them nonetheless, right?
Sure.
And I would question, Matthew, what I would ask you, and I've asked the same question of guys in the Iron Council in the past so let's say I'm holding Ryan accountable, and Ryan's like, we have a phone call, and he goes, yeah, I didn't get my workouts in this week. I'm like, oh man, why not? Oh, well, I've been traveling a lot, or it's the holidays, it was Christmas or whatever. And then my question to Ryan would be, if you would have went for your run anyway, if you would have done your workout anyway, would that day have gone better? And the answer always is yes. It's always
Absolutely
yes.
don't.
And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be traveling. It could be the holiday. It could be, I had a stressful day at work. Guess what? You do what you said that's within your battle plan, and you honor your commitment. Guess what? It's going to feel better. So don't buy to the excuses. You're better off doing what you said you would do always. And here's the other kicker. And I love this. I'm totally riffing on this concept because I've loved this concept from years ago. I came to this realization is let's say that I legitimately have a crazy day and I didn't get my workout in, but I said I would. And so I stay up and I end up having a late night workout and it makes my day even harder. What did I learn? What's available to learn is not packing my day full, learning to say no to people, not overcommitting. We don't learn from overcommitting to people unless we do everything that we've committed to and we realize I overcommitted. It's when I overcommit to people and then I make up all these excuses of why I'm not going to do them and I don't do them and I don't honor my word. Guess what? I don't learn because I didn't go through this suffering that I created for myself. It's like a shortcut. We think it's a shortcut. Oh, I can learn from that without doing the suffering. No, suffer. And then you'll adjust your tactics accordingly and you'll do the things necessary to learn. So always do what you said you're going to do, regardless.
That idea of suffering goes against society's idea that you should just feel good about who you are and what you look like and how you show up. No, you shouldn't. Dude, if you're 40 pounds overweight, you shouldn't feel good about that.
Yeah, you should feel like a piece of crap.
You should feel 40 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
You should have a hard time sleeping. You should feel sluggish. You should feel like a blob because that's what you are. And then the feeling, here's how this works, guys. And we talk about this at length, about emotions. The feeling leads to action. So don't feel good about yourself when you shouldn't. I'm not saying you should use that as an excuse to fall into perpetual depression or anxiety or whatever. I'm just saying use it as a metric for feedback for growth and improvement.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of the lie that we should just accept who we are and be comfortable in our bodies and be okay with where no, we shouldn't feel that way. I mean, maybe I won't say shouldn't. If you want to feel happy about being 50 pounds overweight, fine. But you resign the right to bitch and moan about how you feel physically if you're 50 pounds overweight and you're not willing to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because that's what people will do is they'll say, I'm supposed to feel happy with who I am. And so I'll just feel happy. And then they complain about it the whole time. Well, pick one. Either you're going to be happy or you're going to complain. Which one? I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but anyways, the point is the story that you're saying is that they're at odds with each other, and they're not at odds with each other. And that's the story you need to be telling yourself. And you know what? If you're on vacation and traveling, yes, it's going to be harder to work out. Yes, it's going to be harder to eat better because you're on the road. You're going to be surrounded by junk food. But it doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means it takes a little bit more intention and thought behind it. So if you're at McDonald's because that's where your family wants to eat and it's quick and you're on the road, okay, well, McDonald's has salads. Order a salad.
Yeah.
Right.
Or start fasting.
Or a piece or don't eat at all. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or have a piece of chicken breast or whatever. You can make it work if it's important to you.
And it can be exciting. It's sometimes exciting to be unreasonable. Like we've talked about this, Ryan, of maybe I shouldn't bring it up, but how fun would it be for guys joining Iron Councils? Like, all right, first call's at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? You going to puss out?
Right.
Are you going to show up? You know what I mean? Like seriously, be unreasonable. In my past, I've done a few marathons. And as you know, once you're on a marathon schedule, there is no like, oh, I'll make up this weekend's run some other time, right? Like, and if you do, you can get injured. Like you can't just go like, I run 8 and then and I'm going to go now 16 next Saturday. It's like, you're asking for trouble. And so because of that, I was completely unreasonable. During that time, I'm at Disneyland. How am I going to get in a 16-mile run when I'm on holiday at Disneyland? Well, you wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning and you go running. That's how you do it.
Do your
And
thing.
was it easy? No. But guess what?
No.
It was also kind of inspiring. My kids are like, dang, he's committed. Right?
And you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, I felt great.
So when you have that Disneyland churro, you don't feel as bad.
Yeah.
You earned it.
2 churros.
2 of them. Or the big turkey leg.
Yeah, dude, that sounds good.
That does sound good, but it's disgusting. I see those people at Disneyland with the big turkey legs, and they're just like carrying them around. I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. All right, what else we got, man?
All right, we got 2 more questions. Eric Gentry, have you ever interviewed John Lovell of Warrior Poet Society?
No. Interestingly enough, him and I have been talking, and we're trying to get something scheduled for January at SHOT Show in Las Vegas. He's going to be there. I'm going to be there. So we're trying to get something pinned down.
Cool. There you go, Eric. All right. Brett Baker. I love this one. Over the past 10 weeks or so, I have listened to everything from episode 1 through August of this year. It has been amazing to hear how your life has changed and how this movement has impacted your life. You started talking about running, and I'm curious about your journey. Do you still find it difficult to run without something playing in your ear? Have you felt the runner's high? Have you completed the marathon that you have been training for? And what was the experience for you?
No, I did not continue to run. I never experienced any sort of runner's high. My knees hurt every time I ran, and I have not completed a marathon.
Where are you up to? Or is this still a goal? Have you pivoted?
It's not a goal.
Okay.
It's not a goal of mine. And I'll tell you why. Because I believed that that's what you're supposed, like, oh, you should just do that. You should. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Because every time I got out to go running, I felt like I had to force myself to do it. And I was miserable the entire time. And I came to the conclusion, not that I'm not a runner. I don't like saying those things because you either are, you can decide to be or not. Like, that's a decision.
Yeah.
I just came to the conclusion that running doesn't define somebody's health. So why am I doing this because I think I should, or somebody else runs, so I should run? I can be strong and healthy and fit in a different way that's more meaningful and relevant to me. Jiu-jitsu is a big part of that journey.
Yeah.
So does the runner who doesn't do jiu-jitsu, is that guy less fit? Because no, he's just finding an activity that works for him with his lifestyle, something that he enjoys and plays to his strengths. James Clear actually talks about this in the book, Atomic Habits. I keep bringing that up because of the podcast next week. But he says we're all inherently born with traits and gifts and abilities. And he talks about Michael Phelps and someone else I can't remember. He says Michael Phelps is one of the greatest Olympians ever of all time. And guess what? He's built like a swimmer, not a runner. If he tried to run, he would be hindered by some of his genetics. He wouldn't be one of the greatest Olympians we've ever known if he was running, but he's swimming because that's what his body's made for. So no, it's just it's not relevant to me anymore. And therefore I shifted directions and found something that was more relevant. And I feel really good about that decision.
Yeah. I've seen this multiple times because we have things, right? We see things that common guys do and we think, okay, I should give that a run, right? I should try that out for 12 weeks, put it into my battle plan, see if it fits. And it's funny because, we talk about journaling sometimes or morning meditations. And I've had numerous guys in the IC. It's just like, I committed to it. I did it when I was supposed to, but I don't get it. Like, it doesn't benefit me in any way. And so they're like, okay, next quarter, I'm not going to force myself to do journaling because I never connected with it, but they find another way to calibrate and get their thoughts out and do something different. And so this is a perfect example of us, committing to something, giving it a good run, and then seeing and pivoting appropriately based upon the results and our unique personality and our talents and those kind of things, and interests for that matter. Because I think even with interests, we do that. Oh, this is super popular, I want to do it. And then you try it and give it a good run. You're like, actually, I just don't enjoy it as much as everyone else does. So find something else.
Do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think it's a problem when we try to compare ourselves to other people in that we believe that in order to be successful, we have to do it like them. I use Jocko's 430 as an example. 430 isn't the relevant number.
Yeah.
And I actually think Jocko would probably say that too. Surface, you say, everybody needs to wait. But I think genuinely he would say, just do it. If it's 5:30, if it's staying up a half an hour later, if it's just do it. Do the thing that you're committed to. And what's interesting is I had the opportunity at Origins Immersion Camp to shoot some arrows with him, to shoot archery with him. I brought some of my targets out because I know he was preparing for a hunt. I brought my targets out, my bow, and he brought his. And it was funny because I watched him shoot, and he is like as serious about shooting a bow as he is about jujitsu. Yeah. Like everything is just dot, 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 dot. And then he would miss it by like half an inch. He's like, I need to fix that. And so like everything was just calculated and deliberate and intentional. And the reason I say that is because that's his mentality. And it doesn't matter if it's archery or jujitsu or writing a book. I watched him read Mikey and the Dragons, which is a kid's book. This is not it's a kid's book for like ages 2 to 7 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a child's book. I watched him sit in that chow hall and read that book with as much passion and intensity as you hear him on the podcast, or you hear him reading Dichotomy of Leadership or his new Leadership and Tactics Field Manual, because that's the kind of individual he is. And it doesn't matter what it is.
All the time.
Right. And it doesn't matter what it is. And that's the point. It doesn't matter if it's running. If it's running, cool. If it's jujitsu, cool. If it's archery, cool. If it's painting, cool. If it's playing the harmonica, cool. I don't care what it is. Just do the thing that edifies you, that fills your heart and soul, and do it with everything that you have.
Yeah.
And you'll be set. You'll be fine.
There you go.
We get them all?
Yes, sir. All that I see anyway.
Cool. Good. Well, we'll get to the Facebook questions next week. Appreciate it, guys. Great questions today. Hope we gave you some good answers. Let's wrap it up, Kip, if you would.
Yeah, for sure. We mentioned already earlier, learn more about the Iron Council, our exclusive brotherhood. That's orderofman.com/Iron Council. If you're watching us on YouTube and you want to learn more about the Order of Man above and beyond just these YouTube videos, join us on Facebook, facebook.com/group/Order of Man, or subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and review. Ryan, recently you've been kind of asking for that. Let's cause the movement up. It only takes a few minutes, guys. So please take a moment and leave a rating and review. That really helps us get this message out more.
Let me say a word on that, guys. It's really important. I mean, really important. There's people that you know, men that you know in your life, dads, brothers, cousins, colleagues, coworkers, neighbors, friends, etc., who need to hear this message. And I know that because we get messages from you guys every single day saying, I've lost weight, I've found passion in my life, I'm changing my marriage around, I've reconnected with my kids, I found this new passion, I got a raise. Every day we get messages like that. And we have an opportunity, and I think, frankly, an obligation, to share the information that we have with those who will be impacted positively by it. So if you've listened to this if this is your first time listening to this podcast, or your 500th time listening to the podcast, and you haven't done it yet, do your part and go leave a rating and review. It'll take you 60 seconds. And because you left a rating and review, somebody else will hear this and they'll salvage their marriage, or they'll get a raise, or they'll reconnect with their children, or they will find a new hobby that they enjoy because you took 2 minutes to go leave a review. And if we had 10,000 guys go do that, we'd have millions and millions of men impacted by it. It's like a very small thing that has exponential opportunity for growth and return. Please, just very simple ask, go leave a rating and review on iTunes, and that would mean a lot to us, and it'd mean a lot to the people who learn about what we're doing because you took the time to do that.
Yeah. And for you guys wanting to get some presents out, Order of Man swag for your loved ones, you can go to store.orderofman.com and get hats, T-shirts, decals, flags, and those kind of things. Ryan, I'm assuming there's a date that you need to at one point say anything past this date, we're not going to be able to get something to you guys by Christmas, but I don't know what that is.
It's probably within the next week. So I'd say by, the 15th or 17th of December. It's going to be a little tough at that point to get it out prior to Christmas, but we'll work up until Christmas because as we said earlier, the quote unquote holidays don't stop what we have going on. Like we're not going to send packages on Christmas, but leading up to Christmas Eve, we'll still be sending packages and doing our work because that's what the work requires.
Okay. And then one last thing, legacy. So orderofman.com/legacy. This is a father and young man event, sometimes father and son, sometimes father and nephew.
Yeah.
It was super cool in the last legacy how many guys were there with nephews or really just nephews for the most part, nephews and sons. But that event is June 11th through the 14th, 2020. Once again, orderofman.com/legacy to learn more. And that will be in Maine.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Maine. We have 9 spots left on that.
9 spots. Okay. Yep. So get after it.
All right, guys. Appreciate you. We'll be back Friday for the Friday Field Notes. James Clears next week. We've got some great podcasts lined up in addition to that. I've got another 3 or 4, I believe, in the hopper and some cool upcoming guests. So subscribe, leave the rating and review. Thanks for being on Battle in the Path with us. We'll catch you Friday. Go out there, take action, become the man you are meant to be.